The old grid is gone, the old grid is dead, but I'd argue there's a new, almost as simple grid that's taken its place and can help you whittle down to your ideal MacBook pretty quick. I'm Rene Ritchie. Welcome back to Vector. Thanks for joining me. Let's break this down. If you just want a MacBook you can take pretty much anywhere and do pretty much anything with, then you've got the new baseline, the new MacBook Air. If maximum portability is more important to you and you're willing to pay a premium for the thinnest and the lightest, then there's the 12-inch MacBook. If you demand maximum power and performance, no matter the premium, then you can go all the way up to the just released 2018 15-inch MacBook Pro with mobile Vega graphics, with lots of room to fuss with the exact processor, memory, and storage options in between. But that part has kinda always been true, which is why grids have ever only really taken us so far. Let's try something better. If you need a new MacBook and that's all you really know or care about, if you're a student or a teacher, if you want to work at home, at the office, and at the coffee shop, if you mostly use the web and documents, photos, and messaging, get the new MacBook Air. It's not only the least expensive modern MacBook in Apple's lineup, it's also the simplest. You pick your color, you pick your storage, you pick your memory, and that's it. That's almost iPad simple, and that's what the MacBook Air is for. Everyone who wants a traditional computer without the traditional computer hassles. Here's what you get. Intel's Amber Lake processor, which is a more mobile-friendly Y-series version of Coffee Lake, so it's the latest generation. It just doesn't run quite so hot or quite so fast. And it has two USB-C/Thunderbolt 3 ports, though you'll likely need a USB-A adapter or two as well, at least for the foreseeable future. It's got a Retina display, which means a person with average vision from an average working distance can't see pixels, just sharp text and graphics, though it's not quite as bright or as colorful as the Pro displays. It's also got Apple's latest T2 security chip, which makes it harder for anyone to steal or infect your stuff, and Touch ID, which makes it easier for you to unlock and authorize your stuff. The entry level starts at $1199, and yeah, that's more expensive than the old model, which is still around for $999, but it's $100 less expensive than that old model was at launch, or than any Air has ever been at launch, especially the original, which 10 years ago started
at just $1799.
The entry level has 8 GB of RAM and 128 GB of storage, which is probably fine if you do and keep a lot of your work online. If you want or need more breathing room, you can go to 16 GB of RAM for an extra $200, and to 256, 512, or 1.5 terabytes of storage for an extra $200, $400, or $1,200 respectively, if it's priced outside your reach. And you still really want a Mac, there is that old Air for just $999. It lacks a Retina display and a modern processor and ports, but it does have USB-A and even an SD card slot. You can also keep an eye out for discounts and sales, and check out the refurbs. Or, if you're open to alternatives, the iPad or iPad Pro. Otherwise, the new MacBook Air really is the new normal for everyone who, like I said, just wants a new Mac to take with you everywhere and do pretty much everything you need doing. If you need a new MacBook and even the Air isn't quite thin or light enough for you, if you're an executive or manager, you're always on planes or walking trade shows, if your workload is light so you want your Mac to be the same, and you're willing and able to pay a little bit more to carry just a little bit less, then you want the 12-inch MacBook. Here's what you give up. Because the MacBook is smaller, the screen is also smaller, by an inch and change, and the resolution is 2304 by 1440 instead of 2560 by 1600. Those pixels are also slightly less colorful at standard instead of full sRGB. It's got a couple hours less battery life, 10 for web browsing instead of 12, and only one USB-C port, no Thunderbolt 3 included. It's also got a 480p FaceTime camera, and the keyboard is Gen 2 instead of Gen 3, which means no inner membrane and, yeah, no Touch ID. But here's what you gain. It's up to 1/10 of an inch thinner and almost 3/4 of a pound lighter, and that makes the Air look positively pro-plump by comparison. You also get processor options. Apple didn't bump them up to Amber Lake like the new Air, so it's still the previous generation Kaby Lake Y series, and the entry level comes with an M3, which is about as low and as slow as you can go. There's an i5 as well though, which is last year's version of the i5 in the Air, but there's also an i7, which can give you even better performance than the Air, and in a package that's even more portable, if you're willing and able to pay for it. The MacBook starts at $1299, and for that extra $100 over the Air, you get M3, 8 GB of RAM, and 256 GB of storage. If you want performance as well, you can go to the i5 for an extra $100, or top it out with the i7 for an extra $250. Yeah, it's a lot to pay for a little Mac, but if you simply don't want to carry any more Mac than you absolutely have to, and maximum portability is worth the premium, then the 12-inch MacBook is for you. If you need a new MacBook, but you need to do quote unquote real work, bracket TM, close bracket, if you're a pro photographer, videographer, audio producer, engineer, designer, or coder, if time is money and power is worth a premium, then you want the MacBook Pro. Here's what you'll give up. It's squared off more than wedge-shaped like the Air and a quarter-pound heavier. And it's got 10 instead of 12 hours of web browsing battery life. At the lowest end, well, lowest end for a Pro, the 13-inch without a touch bar, it also has no Touch ID. And while it has a full U-series processor options, they're the previous generation Kaby Lakes, not the current generation Coffee Lakes. All the higher end versions, though, have Touch ID and Coffee Lake. Now here's what you'll get. The 13-inch screen is the same size and density as the Air, but 200 nits brighter, and with a wide P3 gamut, it's much more colorful. Processor options are, well, buckle yourself in. You can get that aforementioned dual-core Kaby Lake U-series version without a touch bar starting at $1299 for the i5, or for an extra $300, i7. You can also get quad-core Coffee Lake with a touch bar and Touch ID in either i5 or, again, for an extra $300, i7. And it's got two USB-C/Thunderbolt 3 connectors on either side, 4 total, which means you can use all your accessories or just charge from either side, and that's super convenient. If you're willing to go up to the 15-inch, not only can you get a 2880 by 1800 screen, but a 6-core Coffee Lake in either i7 or for an extra $400, i9. It's a lot to pay, but it's a lot of performance you're paying for. For the 13-inch, you can go from 8 gigabytes of RAM to 16 gigabytes for an extra $200. For the no touch bar model, you can go from 128 gigabytes of storage to 256, 512, or 1 terabyte for an extra $200, $400, or $800. With the touch bar, from 256 gigabytes of storage to 512, 1 terabyte, or 2 terabytes for $200, $600, or $1,400. For the 15-inch, you can go to 32 gigabytes of RAM for $400, and to 1, 2, or 4 terabytes of storage for $400, $1,200, or $3,200. And to Pro Vega 16 or Pro Vega 20 graphics for $250 or $350. That's a lot of options and a lot of money. But if you're a hardcore keyboard clacking, pixel pushing, red rendering, code crunching, design daring doer, your time is worth more than your money, and you'll pay just about anything for performance, then you want the MacBook Pro. And if you're just aspiring to all that, if you want to be a pro and you just don't want to fake it until you make it, you can get a huge head start with Brilliant. Brilliant is a really cool website and also an app that helps you learn by getting used to solving interesting problems in coding and mathematics. And each of the courses starts off kind of easy and fun and then gets more and more challenging as you master the concepts. If you want to learn specifically about coding, they've got whole courses built around topics like logic, algorithms, machine learning, and artificial intelligence. Just go to brilliant.org/vector and start now. Thanks, Brilliant, and thanks to all of you for supporting the show. Okay, wow. So I know that got real complicated real fast, especially there at the end. So I'm going to rewind and bring it right back to the beginning. If you just want a MacBook that you can take pretty much anywhere and do pretty much anything with, if you're a student or teacher, if you want to work at home, at the office, and at coffee shops, if you mostly use the web and documents, photos, and messaging, then you want the MacBook Air. If you absolutely have to have a MacBook, but you just can't or won't pay more than $1,000 for it, then the old MacBook Air is still in the lineup. If maximum portability is more important to you, if you're an executive or manager, you're always on planes or walking trade shows, if your workload is light and you want your Mac to be exactly the same, and you're willing and able to pay a bit more to carry a bit less, to pay a premium for the thinnest and the lightest, but not too much of a premium, then there's the M3 12-inch MacBook. If you want a little more power as well as portability, and premium is no problem, then you can get up to the i7 12-inch MacBook. If you need power even more than portability, if you're a hardcore keyboard clacking, pixel pushing, red rendering, code crunching, design daring doer, your time is worth more than your money and you'll pay just about anything for performance, then you want the MacBook Pro. Maybe even all the way up to the just released 2018 15-inch MacBook Pro with mobile Vega graphics. And if even that is still way too complicated, just get the new MacBook Air. At least that's what I think. Now I'd love to know what you think. Hit like, hit subscribe, and then hit up the comments below and let me know. And thank you so much for watching.